Welcome to the weekend edition of the Daily Dad podcast. During the week, we give you a daily meditation drawing on ancient wisdom, giving you timeless advice to help you with your most important job, being a parent. And then on the weekends, I have sort of a wrap-up conversation with my friend, fellow dad, and writing partner, Nils Parker. We just explore what's going on in our lives, what we're struggling with as parents, what we're doing well, what we want to do better, and what we've learned along the way, and what we've learned in the last week. And here we go. Hey, man, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good. I was thinking about that post that we did for Daily Dad earlier this week. I thought it was a good one. It was like, don't let a bad day affect being a good father.
Yeah.
I was just curious what that meant to you.
You know, that's one of those things where it is very easy when your day starts out poorly or things start to stack up on themselves for you to get lost in the difficulty of daily existence and to get wrapped up in the narrative of victimhood or start to sort of connect back this string of hardships over the previous days or weeks or months, whether they are real or imagined. And even if you're not wallowing, that energy starts to accumulate and that time starts to accumulate. And before you know it, you have ignored, either literally or figuratively, your role as a father or as a parent. And that energy that could have been directed toward teaching your child or even just being with them. And the irony, of course, is that if you had taken even 20% of that energy and applied it towards spending meaningful time with your kid, it could have broken this cycle of misery that was making your day bad to begin with. We are very quick to get lost in our own narratives and it's a very dangerous place to be, where no matter what your intentions are, have negative externalized consequences onto your kids. So you have to be mindful of the fact that, the bad day might be your bad day, but you can't make it a bad day for your kid. You have to avoid doing that, because they're going to internalize that negativity that wasn't even theirs in ways that they don't even understand, that will have even longer term consequences.
I can think of all these, like, do you remember? So this is funny. We drove to Arizona from Texas, and my wife's parents, so my in-laws drove from California, so we could both sort of get there with minimal exposure. And then we stayed in a house for a week or two and spend some time together. And there was one day I was recording something, and our house in Texas, our garage is not attached. This is a weird detail, but it'll make sense. And so I was sitting there recording. They had left to go do something, like they went for a walk, and then they came back when I was done. And I was sitting on the couch, like on my computer, and I heard the garage door opening. And I had this like sinking feeling in my stomach, like it hit me. And I was like, whoa, where did that come from? And then I realized, growing up, when we moved, I moved maybe in like 8th grade, 9th grade, my room was right next to the garage. And so I could hear the garage open when my parents came home from work or the store or whatever. And I had like almost a Pavlovian response of, one, like, am I doing anything that I don't want anyone to see? And then two, what am I going to get in trouble for? Right? Like what, like it was like an immediate negative reaction to, like, someone's home. I'm probably going to get criticized for something. Someone's going to bring up that my shoes are laying on, like, clean up your room, like blah, blah, blah. And hearing you talk about this, it's what strikes me is like, they probably had a shitty day at work and they were coming home from work. And instead of realizing they were having a shitty day at work, the shitty energy just went into our house. And this, like, I had I'm not trying to make it sound like I had some abusive childhood. It was mostly a happy childhood. But there was clear, like, I think all kids can relate to that idea of like the energy that comes into the house when mom or dad comes home from work or from the DMV or, any negative experience in the world. And they're bringing that home with them.
They're bringing it home and they're allowing it to color the home to such a degree, especially if they do it chronically, that all of a sudden a shitty day at work becomes a shitty day at home, becomes a shitty week at home, becomes a shitty life, and
Yeah.
you never escape it. And you know, I think one of the things that COVID has stripped away from sort of working parents is the gap between the workday and the home day. Like if you know, if you're doing it right, you can use the drive home from the office to sort of decompress and to sort of leave the stressors of work behind. I mean, that's a very maybe Pollyanna-ish perspective, especially when you consider how much people watch, you know, listen to talk radio on their drive home to just get them more pissed
Right.
off. But it's this cycle of negativity and misery that is up to you to break. Like kids, your child's not going to break it. Like
Well,
they're
and they don't know, right? So
yeah.
so like if I have a shitty day at work and I come home and I've told my wife throughout the day, like this is obviously before COVID, but if I've been communicating to my wife what's happening or vice versa, then when the person is behaving in a certain mood, you understand that and you give them space because you're an adult and you're able to go, this is a person, they normally behave this way, but this change of circumstances happened, so they are temporarily different, and I'm going to make it better for them or not make it worse for them. But your kid doesn't understand. Even if they're a teenager, as I was telling you, like that my situation, I mostly would have picked up that Pavlovian response as a teenager. It I'm so a teenager is so selfish. They can't conceive that you were just gone for 8 hours a day getting reamed at. Like they're just like, why are my shoes so important to my dad? Right? Like why all they're thinking is like, why is he being such an asshole to me? It must be me. You know what I mean? So the effects of it are so profound if you can't control your moods. Like I have a problem. Like I wake up, it doesn't matter if I slept for like 10 hours. I never wake up like feeling good. Like whatever. It takes me a while to like wake up, right? And so like that's something I'm trying to be conscious of is like I can't like vomit that shitty energy on a kid. Like they don't go like, "Oh, dad just needs, coffee," although I don't drink coffee. But you know what I mean? Like the kid isn't able to contextualize this. All they can feel is the energy and it's overwhelming, and they can't even communicate to you how it's making them feel.
And I think what people really don't understand is how long through childhood they are incapable of articulating, that kind of thing. And like my my mom and my sister have this ongoing battle from when my sister was, I don't know, 13 to 19, about dishes under chairs. Like it sounds crazy, but like, she would sit on these sort of wingback chairs in the living room, and she would have a snack, or she would, have a soda, and she would put the dirty dish under the seat, under the chair, and
Right.
she would leave it there. And my sister had depression issues and anxiety issues, and she had she had difficulty when she was a teen, and she was stewing and living in that sort of depressive state for a long time, a lot of it undiagnosed. And my mom, as a single mom, would come home from work where she didn't ever get reamed out, but she would be out of the house at 5:30, and she would be back at 5:30, and she prided herself in being very productive, and life hadn't been working out the way she necessarily would have dreamed of it working, but we had a nice house in a great suburb with good schools, and she just wanted to walk in the front door and not see dirty dishes under the chair. And my sister fought her tooth and nail for years, and it would sour my mother's energy and put her into a funk for the rest of the day, the rest of the evening. So during the waking hours when she was home, from the time when I was basically 16, 15 or 16 to the time I left, there were very few evenings where it was like, this great family time. It,
Right.
it, it was just steeped in unspoken anger, sometimes spoken anger, depression, anxiety. And my mom could have done something about it, but she didn't have the tools. and she didn't know what to do or how to do it. And my sister is going to turn 40 this year, and they're still talking about it.
Oh
It's
man.
still unresolved. And
Right.
I can't imagine what the last 25 years of their relationship has been like with that little nugget just sort of like a pebble in the shoe, always there.
Yeah, my wife says something to me sometimes. It's been a good thing in our relationship. This isn't quite related to like you had a shitty day, but she goes like, "What's more important, this or the relationship?" Because each time you decide to make a huge deal out of the plates under the chair, you're choosing the plates under the chair at the expense of the relationship. Not like, it's not an ultimatum choice, but it's like you're saying that talking about this thing is more important than the peace, or more important than the opportunity to connect, or more important than, you know any other thing that you could be talking about instead. And so, especially as a parent, because you have the authority, like, in relationships with a spouse or a partner, you're like equal. So you're like, hey, could you please not do that, right? Or like, hey, I thought you said you were going to do X, or, hey, what's up with this? Or but with a kid, you're like, I told you not to put your shoes here. And
Yep.
so now, and so you're choosing to assert your authority over this thing at the and then you wonder, yeah, why 40 years later you guys don't have the relationship that you want. It's because you repeatedly throughout their childhood, over and over and over again, chose things that were not that important. Like, we try to think about this with our kids, like, they'll draw on the walls or they'll do something, and it's like there's a part of me that has this sort of middle class energy, lower middle class energy, that's like, that's going to cost whatever to fix, or like, now the house isn't going to look at night as nice. And then I have to go, but I'm not lower middle class, and I also don't care that there's crayon on the wall of the garage, like, you know what I mean? But I'm making it an issue because I think I'm supposed to make it an issue, or I'm making it an issue because it's something obvious that I can focus on instead of the bigger things that I'm dealing with in my own life. And what I'm doing is I'm choosing that conflict over a positive relationship with my kids.
Yeah, it's funny. My sister made the same exact point that your wife made. Like, not just sort of at the end of her time living in that house, but also even when it comes back up and it gets relitigated when she was an adult, she would say, what was more important, those freaking plates or me and what I was going through? And my mother's response was that the plates were a microcosm of the relationship itself.
Right. Giant
She
eye roll.
she yeah. They are emblematic of the fact that you don't respect the my rules in the house. You don't care enough to do something that is important to me. Like, and they would just go around in circles talking past each other. And there was never an instinct or probably even a capacity for my mom to find something else to be the microcosm of the relationship. Like,
Yeah.
she could have reframed that if she wanted to or if she was capable. She didn't have to define her entire mother-daughter relationship with her struggling teen daughter by her daughter's absolute depressive refusal to put her plates in the dishwasher. It
Seriously.
it could have been a dozen different things. My sister's very funny, she's creative, she's smart, she loves to cook, like, things she's got things that she my mom could have hung her hat on, and she just never chose to take any one of those options.
What's funny, like, even my kid, my oldest, has trouble understanding that I don't care, right? So he'll drop something, or like I'll hear that his brother's crying, and or draw on the wall, and be like, "Who drew on the wall?" And he'll be like, "I don't want to get in trouble," or something. I'll say that, and my wife goes, "When have you ever gotten in trouble? You're 4 years old. You've never gotten in trouble. We've gotten mad at you like 3 times in your whole life." And we have to go like, we don't care. We just want to know what happened so we can find, like, it's like, did you knock your brother over because there was some miscommunication? And then let's talk about that. Did you do something mean and hurt your brother? Did your brother just fall over because he's 18 months old and then cries as if this is something that someone had done to him? Or, by the way, did something fall and hit him and now he's hurt and we need to know about that, right? It's like we're like, we don't care. We just want to know what happened. And I think that is an attitude. Like, think about that with your mom. Like, if they could have gotten to a place where they went, why do you keep doing this? Like, is it an issue? Is it that you like why? Because and it sounds like the root of it was like, well, I'm horribly depressed and
Yes, exactly.
I don't have the energy to do it. It's like, oh, okay, this is a problem that there's a medical, a psychological, a lifestyle solution to, and in fact has nothing to do with the plates. And we've been arguing about the symptoms. Meanwhile, you're sick.
Yeah, and which, not to go too far down the Germanic rabbit hole, but there's something uniquely German about that experience. It's where you don't. She could have asked, why do you keep doing this? And the answer would have been, I'm depressed. And the irony is, Germans don't talk about anything unless it's negative, unless the negative thing is how you feel. If it's your feelings, that doesn't get discussed. So it ends up being this steely silence that creates this gap between you and your parent or you and your
Yeah.
child that as the years go by seems absolutely unbridgeable, even if you have now the language and the volume to shout it across the chasm. You'll never actually bridge it.
No, I think it's so important. It's just like, look, like when you enter your house, when you come home, like you ran to the store, you are coming home from work, whatever it is, you come in their room. What's the energy you're bringing? Are you bringing good energy or bad energy? Are you taking the shit? Like, it's like, think about, like, I think that's the other thing I've learned from COVID. It's like, oh man, like I would go out in the like I would drive to Austin, fly to Cincinnati, give a talk, fly home through this airport, blah blah blah. I was bringing disgusting germs into our house all the time, right? Of course we were all getting sick. I mean, our kids would bring in disgusting germs from daycare, but I was going out in the world, but I was just like my wife would go like, why did you put your suitcase on our bed? And I'm like, well, I had to get stuff out of it. She's like, you just dragged this through an airport. You wheeled it into an airport bathroom and then you put it on my bed. Like, what's wrong with you? And like, so you don't think about the germs that you're bringing into your bubble, your house. And I think we should also think about that in terms of energy and emotions. Like, when your kids hear that garage going up, are they like, Dad's home? Or they're like, fuck, we better turn off the
Dad's
TV.
home.
Dad's home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, yay, dad's home, or oh shit, dad's home.
Hmm.
You as the dad, you definitely have the power to affect which one of those responses your presence generates. And I think about that a lot as someone who works from home. Like
Sure.
I don't have an external office. I have an office at home, and we just moved into a house. For the last 10 years I've been living in a condo where my office has doubled for three different things. Like, it was a guest room. It was also where extra clothes was. It also became the changing table. Well, we moved into a house and I have an office that is dedicated just to my stuff. There's no extra purpose to it. And so when I open that door and sort of finish for the day, I've tried to be very conscious of shifting the energy and like taking like one long deep breath before I walk down the hall and make eye contact either with my wife or see the baby, because I it's very easy to, if I had a less than productive day writing, or if I had frustrating emails or phone calls, the germs of those calls stick to the baggage that I bring through that door if I don't make the point of sort of wiping them down and leaving them in the office behind me.
Totally. No, it's because sometimes I'll work from home instead of going to the office, and my wife's like, I know you think you're like being nice by staying, but like sometimes it's better for you to go because like now you're just here, but you're not actually here. You know what I mean? She's like, you're standing, you're in the kitchen, you're in the house, but you're only half here. And it's almost weirder than if you just went, did your stuff, and then came home.
Yeah, and I've had that problem if I've fallen behind, or if I've got sort of stuff that came out of nowhere and started to stack up. My wife has started to say, like, go to a hotel for 2 days and get caught up on the stuff that is holding you back, because not only am I half there and half not there, the half that is there is vibrating at a frequency that is not productive to anybody.
No, that's right. And yeah, it's like if you're going to be here, and if you're going to be here, why don't you be positive, a positive source of energy as opposed to a negative one?
Yeah, and it's very easy. It's very easy to slip into that negative script when it feels like either you can't do anything right, or you can't get your head fully above water. It feels like you're drowning because of, work responsibility or life responsibility, and it will make you it will put you in that place where you are here but not here.
And I think like we have less of an excuse, right? Like we're not a coal miner,
Yeah.
we're not a we're not even a police officer today, right? Is not the same as is not having to see the same awfulness as a police officer 100 years ago, right? Like all of these things have gotten nicer and safer and better. And so the idea that you're just like that you get away with what your parents or grandparents got away with, it to me just doesn't fly. You know what I mean? Like you don't get to come in here with that energy because we've made so many improvements. There's it's so much softer
Not
yeah.
not only that, and this is my own sort of theory that I feel like has backing somewhere. I just have to find it. Is like, on top of all that, unlike our parents and grandparents and their parents, we are not existing inside this massive immediate existential threat. Like, there's
Right.
no world war. There's no, we're not on the brink of nuclear holocaust. Like, we
Right. What how we felt in the pandemic, that was the status quo for decades, not just during let's say the Cold War, but like they used to have these pandemics all the time.
Yes, they not only did they used to have pandemics all the time, but science and medicine were at such a place where anything that came through the atmosphere could kill a firstborn child or grandma in a matter of days out of nowhere. Like,
No, we were talking about this. It's like we were saying, like there's so much expectations as far as Christmas goes. Like it's got to be a happy Christmas, but then you also don't want to spoil them. Just all the pressures of parents on Christmas. And I was like, and she's like, we're talking about this late at night before, and I was like, sure, but 100 years ago we would have been talking about how hopefully Timmy doesn't die of smallpox. Like we're yes, there's a lot on parents these days, but the scepter of death is so much less. And what existential dread and terror that must have that's why dad would come home from work at the factory and then go straight to the bar and drink all night and then come home. There's
totally,
a it was awful.
totally. And the you mentioned Christmas. The irony there to me is, like, do you know how sad most Christmas songs are? Like, "I'll Be Home for Christmas" was written in 1943 because it was written from the perspective of a soldier who wasn't going to come home.
Right.
Like, Christmas songs, there's don't read if you don't wanna get sad during Christmas, don't read the lyrics to half the Christmas songs out there. They're not it's not a happy experience because of exactly what you're talking about.
Totally. Well, I think that's a good lesson for which is you can't bring bad energy into the house. You got to worry about the germs you're bringing home, and you got to realize that they have no conception of what's going on in your life, and it's completely unfair to make that their unspoken problem.
Yeah, absolutely. You can have a bad day, but you can't let a bad day affect you from being a good dad.
Love it. All right, man. Appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely.
Hey guys, look, we're all trying to be better parents, and that's why we designed the Daily Stoic Parenting Challenge. It's 10 commandments based on the best in Stoic wisdom, stories from history, literature, all of that to inspire you to do your most important job a little bit better. I'm really proud of this thing. I think you'll get a lot out of it. Go to dailystoic.com/parent and join us in the Daily Stoic Parenting Challenge, and let's get better together.